Imagine standing on the deck of the most luxurious ship ever built in 1912. The air is cool, the ocean stretches endlessly in every direction, and everything feels incredibly safe. People are walking around. Some are quietly watching the sea, others are chatting and laughing. There's a sense of comfort in the air, because everyone knows they're not on an ordinary ship. This is exactly what the passengers of Titanic felt. Safety, comfort, and a little bit of awe. But as we all know, this story didn't end the way anyone expected. To really understand what happened, we need to go back to the beginning. Titanic wasn't just a means of transportation. It was a symbol of human confidence in technology. At the time, it was seen as the peak of engineering. With its massive size, strong structure, and incredible comfort, it was often described as unsinkable. The ship was about 260 meters long, making it the largest moving object ever built at the time. Inside, everything was designed with luxury in mind. Grand staircases, elegant dining halls, spacious lounges, even a gym. For first-class passengers, this wasn't just a trip. It felt like living in a floating palace. But Titanic wasn't only for the wealthy. People from all walks of life were on board. Wealthy businessmen, aristocrats, artists. But also immigrants hoping to start a new life in America. For many third-class passengers, this journey meant a fresh start. A new opportunity, a better future. And that's what makes this story so powerful. This wasn't just the sinking of a ship. It was the loss of thousands of dreams traveling together. The journey began on April 10th, 1912. People boarded the ship with excitement. There were emotional goodbyes at the port. Some didn't realize it would be the last time they saw their loved ones. Others believed they were stepping into the best days of their lives. The destination was New York. For the first few days, everything went smoothly. The sea was calm, the weather was clear. Passengers enjoyed everything the ship had to offer. They took walks on the deck, had dinner with live music, met new people, and simply enjoyed the experience. Everything was going exactly as planned, but there was something in the background that didn't get enough attention. During the journey, Titanic began receiving warnings from nearby ships about icebergs in the area. These messages were important, but at the time, such warnings were quite common. Because of that, they weren't taken as seriously as they should have been. The crew acknowledged them, but no major changes were made to the ship's speed or route. By the night of April 14th, the temperature had dropped significantly. The ocean was unusually calm. At first, this might seem like a good thing, but in reality, it made things more dangerous. Without waves, icebergs are much harder to spot. Normally, waves break against them, making them visible. But that night, the ocean was almost like a mirror. At around 11:40 p.m., the lookouts spotted a dark shape ahead. It was an iceberg. They immediately sent a warning to the bridge. The ship tried to turn. The engines were reversed. But a ship the size of Titanic couldn't change direction that quickly. Instead of hitting the iceberg head-on, Titanic scraped along its side. It didn't feel like a major collision. In fact, many passengers didn't even notice anything unusual. But the real damage happened below the waterline. The iceberg tore open several sections of the ship's hull. Water started rushing in. Titanic had watertight compartments, but they were only effective up to a certain point. In this case, too many sections were damaged. The engineers quickly realized the truth. The ship was going to sink. There was no way to stop it. At first, this wasn't clearly communicated to the passengers. The crew tried to keep things calm and under control. People were told to put on life jackets and move toward the lifeboats. But many still didn't understand how serious the situation was. Down below, however, the crew knew time was limited. The ship would stay afloat for only a few more hours. Lifeboats were prepared, but there was a major problem. There weren't enough lifeboats for everyone on board. At the time, Regulations didn't require ships to carry enough lifeboats for all passengers. Even more surprisingly, some lifeboats were lowered into the water without being fully filled. Many people simply didn't believe the ship would actually sink. To them, staying on Titanic felt safer than getting into a small boat in the freezing, dark ocean. As time passed, reality became harder to ignore. The front of the ship slowly began to sink into the water. People started to realize this was serious. Panic began to spread. The rule, women and children first, was enforced. This meant many men stayed behind. Some accepted this calmly, while others desperately looked for a way to survive. That night revealed so much about human nature. Some people remained calm and helped others. Some were overcome by fear and focused only on saving themselves. One of the most unforgettable details was the musicians on board. They continued playing music until the very end. It didn't change what was happening, but it helped bring a sense of calm in the middle of chaos. As the hours passed, Titanic reached a point of no return. The front of the ship was completely underwater. The back began to rise into the air. The stress on the structure became too much, and eventually, the ship broke in two. At around 2:20 a.m., Titanic disappeared beneath the ocean. But the tragedy didn't end there. The water was freezing. People who ended up in the ocean could only survive for a few minutes before hypothermia set in. Rescue wouldn't arrive in time for most of them. Those in the lifeboats could hear the cries. But going back was dangerous. If too many people tried to climb in, the lifeboats could sink too. So most of them stayed where they were. Hours later, a rescue ship finally arrived. But by then, very few were left alive. Out of more than 2,200 people on board, over 1,500 lost their lives. Around 700 survived. The world was shocked. This wasn't just an accident. It was something much bigger. It changed the way people thought about technology and safety. After the disaster, major changes were made. Ships were required to carry enough lifeboats for everyone. Communication systems were improved. Iceberg monitoring became much more serious. But the story of Titanic isn't just about technical failures. It's about people. It's about fear, courage, mistakes, and sacrifice. Today, the wreck of Titanic rests deep in the ocean. Silent, dark, and untouched. But its story is still told. Because this isn't just something that happened in the past. Even today, it reminds us of something important. The things we believe are the strongest can still be fragile. And sometimes, it only takes a single moment for everything to change. That's what the story of Titanic really is. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like. See you in the next one.